What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the third episode of the JoeyH podcast. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a sports analysis show with my co-host, Lucas Wheeler. How are you doing today?
Doing good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. All right. So, right now, we're just gonna let you have the first crack at it. Lucas, get us started on the NFL. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. I was just gonna want to talk about how the NFC, how there's a lot of people who want their teams to win, and even though I can't stand them, the Eagles are gonna win the NFC. It doesn't matter. The conversation's over. Them just blowing through the teams they face with little or no obstacles.
Yeah.
I mean, Hertz is just unbelievable. Kelsey's unbelievable. The whole brotherly push.
I understand. Cause I remember when Jalen Hurts was drafted in 2020, everyone thought, you know, the Eagles were taking, you know, like quality over quantity.
Yeah,
They were taking more talent than what they actually needed
yeah. Which
for their team. And I mean, you saw just this offseason, he got like a huge extension. And
they love him over there. They love
I
him.
mean, greatly deserved. So I mean, I'm with you on that. They'll definitely make it to the Super Bowl. AFC is a little bit of a sticky situation.
In
So
my opinion, of course, the Chiefs, and in my opinion, the Ravens. The Ravens are kind of like the dark horse of the AFC, in my opinion.
I got you. Yeah,
Mm,
Lamar, he just got himself a contract as well. So
Yeah,
he's not screwing around. They got Odell as well. So,
yeah, yeah.
and now, all right, what I want to talk about is this last week. So, 6 days ago, Joshua Dobbs just got traded to the Minnesota Vikings. And
hmm
Kirk Cousins, he was out. He had Achilles surgery, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's out for the season, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And the starting quarterback for that game, they were playing Atlanta. Like,
They had a good
yeah,
comeback.
yeah, he had to go out of the game with a concussion. And Joshua Dobbs, who literally was signed like 5 days before this happened, literally goes in the game and pulls off a comeback. He literally had not thrown to anybody. He
Yeah.
literally had to take snaps on the sideline. That was his first time ever taking snaps. Remember last year when Baker Mayfield literally got traded on a Tuesday to the Rams, and then like they had a Thursday night game, and he basically led them to a victory.
Yeah, man.
He Joshua Dobbs probably only knows like the basics of the playbook. Apparently, he
Yeah.
said I only know
Two or three
I,
plays.
yeah, I only and I don't even know my receivers first, some of them I don't even know their first names. So
That's
yeah, or not their first name, their full names. So all right, now college football, what are you thinking about with that, man?
Playoffs are going to be good. I feel like the top four teams are really good. Florida State, Georgia, Ohio, and Michigan. Ohio State, Michigan. The rankings are wrong. I believe it should be Michigan, Florida State, Ohio State, and Georgia. Michigan, I believe Michigan has made mistakes with the whole sign reading.
They just fired that assistant coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, look, in my opinion, I think at the very least Coach Harbaugh gets suspended, and then
Of
they're
course.
saying that they think that he's going to be the head coach of the Raiders next season. I don't know if that will entirely happen, but it's a possibility, because he has had head coaching experience in the NFL before. He even took he took Colin Kaepernick, with his team with the 49ers to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He actually lost to his brother. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a weird situation. So, but so do you think like that, like the top four teams right now, you think they'll be, that's like, that's a lock, like the playoffs?
I think that's the lock of the playoffs. I mean, Florida State just got announced that they're going to the ACC championship. George is obviously going to win the SEC championship, no matter who they play, whether that be Alabama, Ole Miss. I heard is looking pretty good this season, and a couple other SEC teams that are looking pretty good. But and probably the Big Ten championship is probably going to be Ohio State and Michigan again. It's been Ohio State and Michigan just the last couple of years, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Um,
Now, my thing that I want to talk about is Washington. Like
Washington has
they're
been very
9-0.
yeah.
I know, like, yeah, like Pac-12, unfortunately, they're disintegrating. I
I don't
believe
know. Pac-12
Washington. I believe Washington and Oregon. They're
are
going to the Big Ten.
big, are big. Yeah, yeah. They're going to the Big
Yeah,
Ten. I think USC is also going to the Big Ten.
yeah, UCLA as well, and
Mhm.
it's unfortunate they're disintegrating, but when you kind of look at the ins and outs of it, like I kind of understand it because they want to, I guess, in their minds, play better competition and
Be in the
around,
conversation of championships.
be in the conversation championship, get exposure around the country. Really, I think that's primarily their goal. But Michael Penix Jr., he's from Tampa. He's their starting quarterback at Washington. And man, like he is like I think he should be at least in the top five for the Heisman this year. Like
Yeah.
it's
I really,
unreal.
I really got who do I have? I probably got the Michigan quarterback. I forgot his name.
JJ
Jordan,
McCarthy.
yeah, McCarthy. Jordan Travis for Florida State.
It really sucks that Georgia and Alabama are not in the same division in the SEC
Yeah,
because man, that would be. Imagine
those.
if that's like a season to season rivalry where
Oh, dude, that'd be
they
insane.
play each other every single season. Like that would be
That'd be
insane.
great.
I mean, they play Auburn every single season, so it's like,
But so does Alabama. So does
yeah. I
Alabama.
mean, I don't see why they couldn't do that, but
Yeah.
and then now on to the UFC. Lucas, what I know you want to see some big title fights next year, some
It's-
big fights. What is your what do you want to see next year? I mean, I feel
So
like it's full of opportunities. So
there's so much to go on next year. I mean, Sean O'Malley, he's gonna bring in so much for the UFC, in my opinion. He's
yeah,
a huge star in the making. No matter what he does, no matter what he does, no matter where he is, if he's like just doing Instagram, just doing Twitter, or just doing press conferences, like no matter where he is, he's making a show. But I want to see him probably go up to featherweight. I want to see him in that Volk fight, maybe. Let's see how he does in bantamweight. I want to see him really control the bantamweight division, and I believe he will. But I also want to see, in my mind, the Volk on O'Malley fight. That fight sounds perfect. That fight sounds
of
so
course,
good.
of course.
Just Sean O'Malley just needs a lot of training. He needs a lot of training because Volk, dude, is just a bulldozer.
I know. I mean, Volk, he did just get finished by Islam
Yeah,
Makhachev. But everyone loves to forget though in the first fight, like I wholeheartedly believe if Volkanovski had another round in their
had
first.
another 30 seconds. Had another 30 seconds.
Yeah, I know he would have won. He would have won. It's just like it was just
I
unfortunate
believe in that too. I believe in that
because
too.
Islam was slowing down towards the end of the fight. I could see it, but
drastically, in my opinion.
yeah, and
He's
it
slowing down
was
a lot.
yeah, it was just announced today though that Sean O'Malley is going to fight
Me
Marlon
too.
Vera in March, and that is
Gonna
actually
be a
a
good fight. That's
rematch.
gonna be good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
His
rematch.
only finish. His only finish. His only finish lost.
Only finish. It was in 2020, and well, it wasn't really. It was just an unfortunate fight because Sean O'Malley broke his foot during the
Yeah.
fight. They had
Yeah.
to call it off, and it
Doctor
was
stoppage, but it was technically TKO.
yeah, it was an unfortunate, but I'm glad they'll be able to run it back. And now that he's the champion, I'm sure that Sean O'Malley's he's gonna love that. And
I could not stand Aljamain Sterling. I'm so sorry. He had and I feel bad for him, but he had the worst, in my opinion, the worst UFC reign of all time. And it wasn't his fault. It was not his fault, but man, I could
uh,
not stand the guy.
see, the thing was is that Aljamain, his title run wasn't necessarily. I don't think it was ideal because
He started
he
with the
had
whole Yan thing, the
yeah,
whole
it was
kid.
Gary on. He got kneed in the head, and it wasn't. Yeah, it was unfortunate. And then he
Mhm.
ended up having a rematch in a year later in Jacksonville,
And he
and
beat him. He did beat him.
yeah, he beat him. And, oh man, a lot of people thought he was going to lose that fight, but man, he stepped up to the plate and was an absolute dog, and he won that fight. And then he and recently he lost his fight to Sean O'Malley in Boston.
Hmm.
But you know, Sean O'Malley, like I knew though, like from the beginning, I remember he had his first the Dana White Contender Series started in 2017, I believe, and he was
Yeah.
one of the first fighters on that
And
Contender Series.
immediately exploded. Immediately
Yeah,
exploded.
he knocked that guy out, and he said to Dana, "Welcome to the Sugar Show." And you know, I mean,
Yeah.
little did we know like what was to come with that, but he ended up showing us what he was capable of, man. And it's been quite a journey, and you know, he's yeah, it's been a good 6 years, and now he's at the forefront of his career, and he's now
I feel like it's just starting. I feel like it's just starting for him.
yeah, it's about to
Still young, still got a
catapult.
ton of years till he's like out. I feel like it's just
Yeah,
starting.
I mean, look, no fighter. I mean, look, when I look at the UFC, and it's like there's only been like I want to say there's only like two fighters really that have actually like ridden off into the sunset. Really, like
Yeah.
two. I mean,
Robbie
I
Lawler.
maybe three. Like, and that's
There's Robbie Lawler comes to mind, obviously.
yeah. I give it to Robbie. I mean, well, Robbie. Yeah, Robbie, he's been in the game since he was like 19 years old.
Dude, he's been in the game forever.
Been in the
Forever.
game forever. I mean, he had that fight with Rory McDonald, and that was to this day probably one of the greatest fights I've ever watched.
Unbelievable.
And I mean, that's probably the second best fight in UFC history. Number one, I give it to Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner.
I'd
You know,
probably have to say
because with
Alexander
because with
Gustafsson.
because without that fight, though, here's the
UFC
thing:
would be
without
anything.
that fight, the UFC is not where it is today.
Not
It's
at all.
probably bankrupt. It's not. It is not. It probably isn't a company because Dana White said himself, "This was literally we had everything riding on this event,
Yeah.
everything."
Yeah.
So, and they stepped up to the plate, man. That was fireworks of a fight, you
Oh yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'd have to say John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson won. That fight
yeah,
was just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
that showed everyone really who Gustafson like. That Gustafson was no joke, and
No joke at all.
and and
And,
John
and
Jones, like John Jones, he's willing to go in the deep waters in a fight. I mean, and John Jones really had to dig deep in that fight, and he ultimately won. And then I mean, as far as like, because I mean, in the history of in the history of the UFC, I'll give it to Forrest and Stephan Bonner. But
That was a great fight.
yeah, it was a great fight. I mean, that was one of the best. But
They
now,
weren't even in
however,
the UFC technically at the time either. So it just showed like
yeah, that was the Ultimate Fighter finale. But Dana White actually said he went in the octagon right after that fight, and he said there is no loser in this fight.
yeah, exactly.
Boris and Stefan, you're both getting a contract. But speaking of John Jones, recently, unfortunately,
Tore his pec.
yeah, he had to get,
Right off the bone, bro. Right off the bone.
I know, had to get surgery. I believe he's going to be out in for
For
eight
like,
months,
yeah,
and
dude.
yeah, I was really looking forward to that. But it's unfortunate, but I believe he'll be back and better. But did you happen to see though this last Saturday of or not this Saturday, but the Saturday before, Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury?
I did
The
not watch the fight live, but I did end up watching it like 2 days later. Francis won that fight, bro.
I know he won. He won, and it's sad, but he won that fight. See, here's the thing. That's why, since Francis is doing boxing now, I I'll say he's one of my three fighters that have truly ridden off into the sunset from the UFC because, well, I mean, I give it to like Khabib, he rode off into the sunset.
Of course. I think he should have gone 30, like he should have had that 30th. Uh
Yeah, I mean, but I don't blame him if he doesn't want to. And then
no,
GSP
yeah,
as well. He rode off into the sunset. A lot
big
of people
Michael
thought he was
Bisping.
going to defend his title against when he beat Michael Bisping, but unfortunately he got sick, and I mean, now I mean, he's a little old for the UFC, but if you look at his Instagram, the dude's literally doing ice baths in
Insane. He's
the
insane.
snow in Montreal.
He's
So like
insane.
that's insane in itself. But then but Francis, I'll give it to him too. He rode off into the sunset. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy's story is just insane. I mean, he
Insane, dude.
he came
Salt man.
from he came
Salt
from
man.
yeah, came from Cameroon, like had to spend 2 months in an immigration jail in Spain, and then through that, about a couple years later, made his way to France, and yeah, sometime later made his way to France, and man, like I could not believe like apparently slept in a parking lot there in Paris, and
Slept in a gym. Like
yeah, and then he moves to Las Vegas, and I mean that guy has fought through all of that, but for him to lose that fight, like, look, everyone knows he won that fight. I don't care what no one says. Francis, his story is inspiring, and
amazing.
like
Man.
so, yeah. But how is because I know you are sort of close to Gilbert Burns, and like
Huge
how
fan. Huge fan. Huge
yeah,
fan of Gilbert Burns. I
I
want to
know
see
you're
him next year. I'd like to see him try to make one more title run.
yeah,
Um,
because we saw him fight Masvidal in Masvidal's last ever fight in Miami, and
just put it on him.
I
But
know,
he's hurt. He's like, dude, he had a fight like 2 or 1 month right after that, and dude, he's broken right now, bro.
yeah, I understand,
He
but
broke his neck. I'm pretty sure he broke or did something to his neck. He broke his knee, hurt his ribs, and like, dude, he's broken.
yeah, he's like he is one person that I will like. I'll remember like because I remember watching him fight Tyron Woodley. I think it was Tyron's last ever fight in the UFC, and
It was Covington. I thought that was Covington.
No, yeah, yeah, that's right. Tyron's last ever fight was was Colby Covington, but yeah, it was Tyron's second to last fight, and Gilbert, you know, a lot, Gilbert, I believe, was the underdog in that fight, and
Mhm.
beat up Tyron for 5 rounds, and then ended up like catapulting his career basically, and then he ended up fighting Usman for the title, but he ended up losing, and
Yeah.
then you know he had that lights out fight with Hamzat Shemaev in
Dude, I believe he
Jacksonville.
won that fight. I mean, that fight could have definitely gone both ways, but oh man, comes
Look,
out tired, bro. Comes out tired,
Hamzat's my boy, and he did just beat Kamaru Usman. But
which is
man,
big,
oh,
which is big, very big.
that is big. I, but I mean, he was supposed to fight Paulo Costa, and it
What
was
happened?
it was unfortunate, that
How do you think that fight would have gone?
I think I think Hamza might have beat him. I'm not saying for sure. I'm not saying for sure he would have beat him, but I feel like Hamza would have beat him. Hamza's a dog, and he
He's a dog, bro. He's a killer.
he's from Chechnya, and he moved to Stockholm, Sweden, I believe, when he was 18 years old.
Mhm.
Now I don't believe he lives in Sweden anymore, but
No, I heard
he
he's in
moved to UAE, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Since he
like
was carrying the flag at the Usman fight. He
yeah,
carried
he was representing the UAE flag at that fight. So he lives probably in the Dubai, Abu Dhabi area. But yeah, man, I mean, Hamza, he's a dog. Like that face he gave Usman before the fight,
he's a killer, bro.
he's killer,
One
man.
scary dude. He's one scary dude.
One scary dude. So, all right, well, Lucas, I greatly appreciate you for doing this, and
It's been a pleasure.
yeah. We'll try to hit this off again next month, and yeah, man, I'm very excited to be doing this with you, and have a great one.
You too, man.